All right. Welcome, everyone. We're glad to be on Sober Sunday. This is Simon Bevy, your host, and today I'm joined by my dear wife, that's Sophia Mwende. She's going to be introducing herself shortly, but we're glad to do this last episode for the season. You'll not believe it, but this is episode 24. This is the 24th episode since we began Sober Sunday. We have had very good conversations around relationships, finances, investments, parenting, all kinds of subjects. It's really been exciting to have lots of you who have stuck with us, who have been very active in the conversations. We're so grateful to everyone who has been in this platform. And so we want to invite you to this very exciting conversation. It's going to be easy. We're going to be sharing about our lives and some of the lessons we have learned. And we're so glad to have our dear friend who has become a constant guest to Sober Sunday, that is Wahoo. We're glad to have you here, and we'd love to have you just introduce yourself, say a few things about yourself, as we also in a moment get Kanji Bugwa to join us as well. But Wahoo, go ahead and just introduce yourself for a minute and say a few interesting things about yourself.
Well, thanks, Percy. I'm glad to be here as usual. I enjoy Sober Sunday so much, both as a panelist and also as a consumer when I'm not on the panel. And I must say, it's been an exciting 24 weeks. So asante sana, at least for inviting me once, twice, Apple. Yeah, so I'm Wahoo. I am a born-again believer. I am a mother of two gorgeous girls, Tumiso, who is 14, and Nyakeo, who is 7. I am married to one man. I have been married now for 15 years. I am a musician.
What is his name? Because some people...
Oh, did I jump that? He's nameless. He didn't get a name.
Yeah.
But see, you know, my marriage certificate says Mrs. Kamoni.
Okay.
Mrs. Madenge. But the name Kamoni never sat with people, so I just flow with Madenge. Madenge is actually my father-in-law. It's not my husband. It's called David Kamoni Madenge. So ideally, I should be Mrs. Kamoni, not Mrs. Madenge, but it is what it is. So that's, I guess, something new that people, I guess, didn't know.
Yeah. Well, Sophia has the same problem as well, but yeah, she will speak for herself. So how old are your two girls?
She said that.
My girls? Oh, they are 14 and 7.
Oh, 14 and 7. I did not get that. All right. All right. Yes. You are still going on. Had you finished the introduction?
I think that's pretty much it. I am a musician. I am a businesswoman. I own a salon called Afro Siri Salon, which is in Westlands. Y'all are invited to come. What else can I say? Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you. It's good to know you a little bit more. 14 and 7. So let me have Sophia introduce herself. She's new to this panel. And then after that, we're going to invite Kanji. He looks to be ready. The musician, he has his keyboard ready there. He's going to play some keys, I think. Yeah, Sophia, just go ahead and say a few things about yourself.
All right. Hi, Sober Sunday people. It's good to see you all. My name is Sophia Mwende. That means beloved wisdom. And yeah, I'm married to Simon here. So if I want to go incognito, I go by Mrs. Musioka. If I need doors to open, I go by Mbevi. Yeah. So I switch depending on the situation. Yeah. So I'm a mother of 3. Thanks to Simon, he made me a mama. Is it you or the babies? I think it's you first. Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. So we have 3 children, 19, 15, and 11. And we've been married 23 years. Yeah, next anniversary, it will be 24. And then the next anniversary, it's going to be Silver Jubilee. Yeah, so it's been a while. I'm an educator by training, by passion, by calling. I run a school, Almasi. I'm a student. So yeah, I think everything around me is about learning and learning some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're really glad to have you here. There are a few people who have been asking Mrs. Musioka needs to show up, Mrs. Mbevi. So we're glad to have you here today, that you're not in another camera trying to check things from the back end. I'm so glad to have my good friend, my boy, Mr. Kanjin Bugwa. I always remember the first time we met and I was wondering, this guy is crazy. And I'm sure you were also wondering whether we'll ever be friends, but now those early days, but ended up being the best of buddies, and so glad to have you here, man. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself a bit and say a few things about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Pastor Sai. Wahoo, so good to see you. It's my home girl from back in the day.
I know, right? Good to see you
man,
too.
for years, man. And Wahoo and I go way back. Wahoo was at my first concert.
Yes.
My first concert, like ever. I was maybe 18 or 19.
19, I know.
Yeah, just out of high school, trying to figure out music and all of that. So we go way back. That's years, many years.
A long time.
I don't want to say how many years.
It's just the other day, please.
Yeah, man. But Pastor S, you and I. The funniest thing about our getting to know each other is, Pastor S was like, which is this Hellenic type of Christian? And me, I was like, who's this super spiritual Christian? And that was our first interaction with each other. But who knew that, we'd be amazing friends over 15 years, man. Like, that's just amazing. But my name is Kanji Mbugwa. I'm a musician. I'm a father to 2. My firstborn is Stella. She's 11. Well, no, hey, come on.
Hey.
She's 13.
Yeah.
She loves music. She's a beautiful spirit, beautiful soul. Very mature for her age. And then my son is Benga, and he's 11 years old, just turned 11. And he's more like his mom, more laid back. But just good kids, good happy kids. And my wife, I'm married to Mwendwa. We've been married for I should know this off the top of my head.
Oh my God, Kanji, no, Kanji.
We've been married for 14 years. But let me tell you what happened in this marriage game is that we spent a whole year where we celebrated the wrong anniversary. So we were 13 twice. So when we turned 12, we're like, we've been married for 13 years, and we celebrated and went out, and put it on Facebook or whatever it was, and one of our friends was like, "Guys, this is your 12th anniversary." and they were telling us like Huko in December, you know. So we were 13 twice. But we married 14 years.
Funny.
And it's been awesome.
Okay. Well, I think that only happens to musicians. It never happens to people like that.
Yeah, right.
Please, please.
Well, Kanji, we're glad to have you here. I think we'll just go ahead and start the conversation. Let me start with you, Wahoo. I mean, you're a big deal in the music industry. People know you far and wide. And how you came up to where you are, and some of the lessons that you've learned, you know, just briefly in that journey that you've taken, you know, right from high school all the way to being who you are, a big name in the music industry.
Sorry, the internet skipped a little bit, so I'm trying to figure out the question. I thought maybe I just ask you to repeat for me instead of answering the wrong thing.
All right, sorry about that. I think I was saying if you could just tell us a few of the lessons you have learned in your journey from, you know, all the way from high school and where you've come to and some of the big milestones that you would remember and say, wow, these are big things that I've gone through to be who I am today. I mean, there are lots of people who admire you and are listening to you today and want to know some of the challenges you faced and milestones that have been there for you.
Wow, that thanks for that, Percy. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know how to summarize it, but maybe I can pick out some of the major points that I remember along my life, and maybe hopefully somebody can use that to, you know, in their own process. I think the first one I can remember is, you know, I was very shy in high school. I was shy. Okay, so I wanted to sing. I loved music, but I didn't have the confidence to sing on my own. I would rather hide in the comfort of numbers. So I'm in the choir, but at the back and all that. And I was also, I think, what can I say about myself in high school? I was shy. I was a bit timid. At the same time, what else can I say? If anyone told me I'd be a musician, let me say it that way. If anyone told me I'd be a musician, I'd be like, yeah, funny. you missed the mark. But when I was 18, right after high school, and I remember my issue when I was 18, and I don't know if I've shared this on your platform, is I was so used to being told, and anyone who's gone through the 844 system can probably, to an extent, you know, see what I'm talking about. I was so used to being told what to do, right? And the objective was pass your exams, you know, that was always the focus, pass your exams. And that is almost like the, you know, your way to success is pass your exams. So I was very good at passing my exams. I don't know if I was a good student. I was good at passing exams. And I got to high school. The problem with my high school is I met a whole bunch of other kids that were brilliant students and passed exams very well. So I was in Precious Blood Reruta. That's a school of very sharp kids. So what happened is I went to PB and I struggled. I was not the top. I was an average child, maybe below average. I was there. That's how I used to perform. And I think my performance really played negatively on my self-esteem because my area of strength was not celebrated, which was music. It didn't shine because I was not good at physics. And I was not good at, you know, all these other things that were celebrated. It impacted my self-esteem. So when I got to 18, I mean, I was there. I got to 18, somehow I made it to campus. But I remember because I was very unhappy, At 18, why it was an important year for me is the year that I prayed to God and I told God, I have absolutely no idea why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you what I know, God. I can tell you I am not happy. I've spent 4 years of my life feeling terrible, feeling like I am not worth it, because the one thing that I thought I was good at,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it's like I'm not good at it. So I've spent all this time, now I don't feel like I'm worth anything and I'm not happy. And I want to be happy. I knew that was the one thing. I knew I was not happy and I knew I wanted to be happy. And I knew that if I talked to God, I remember that day like it was yesterday, because that was the first time I had an extremely honest conversation with God. And I told God, it only makes sense if you tell me why you created me. And I was not begging. And I was reasoning. I remember I was like 18 and literally I was reasoning with God. I'm like, it makes sense. You tell me why you created me. I do the thing I was created to do. I'm happy. I want to be happy. You're happy because I'm doing what you create. It makes sense. And I remember having that conversation and I was telling God, it makes sense for you. I don't want to spend a lifetime wondering why I'm here. And I was crying and I was like, it was one of my most honest conversations, because I was saying, honestly, God, I don't know. Even I have been raised a Christian. Yeah. This was such a raw conversation. I'm like, I don't know if I was raised a Muslim, if I would be here discussing Jesus. I don't know. Yeah. I was like, this is all I know. I know this because this is how I have been raised. Yeah. It's what my parents have taught me, to go to church and but I don't know if this is the truth genuinely. And I was having talking to God about my spirituality, about my purpose. I was 18 and I told God, you have to show me. And I was crying. I had makamasi. Oh, it was untidy. It had no order. Yeah. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
For me, whenever I reflect on that moment, I reflect on the honesty of that prayer and the sincerity. Because I kid you not, Percy, within 5 minutes, God answered me. Within 5 minutes, God had me. He answered me, because I came out of our bedroom, wiping my makamasi, I've cried, and I went into the sitting room, and my brother had just come home with a Nini of Miles Monroe, Purpose. Dr. Miles Monroe, the first time I engaged with Dr. Miles Monroe, I was 18. And the thing that I was watching was called Purpose. Like, if that was not God answer, I was like, wait, what? I'm like, how is it such an immediate answer? And I'm like, how? Every time I look back, I'm like, how did that happen? And I feel like it was the genuineness of my conversation and my honesty. It had nothing to do with, because I was even telling him, Aki, I don't even know if this Christianity is true. I don't know. I can sit here and cheat you, but I'm not going to do that, because you can see my heart and I genuinely don't know. And I watched Dr. Miles Monroe like my life depended on it. Purpose. And I want to tell anybody who has not watched Dr. Miles Monroe, that preaching, it's available on YouTube now. Go and watch it. Purpose. If you're wondering why you are here on this earth, what is the life mission, please go and watch Dr. Miles Monroe's teaching on purpose. Go with a pen and a paper. You will need to take notes. And that's exactly what I did. And I listened to it, and he talked about starting to do the things that make you happy, not the things you are good at. Because when I was 18, I could not have necessarily said that I was a great musician. I was shy. How would I have really ever known how good I was? I never really gave myself the opportunity. He said, start wherever you are, in your bathroom or in your whatever, get your audience, your little friends, whoever they are, do it. I wrote down the things that make me happy, and I literally just began. And I kid you not, it is like when you start to do the thing that makes you happy and you are faithful in that, God agrees with you and he meets you. It's like an act of faith. And God agrees with you and he meets you at that point, and the doors begin to open. I had no godfathers. I can't necessarily say at that point my father was excited about me trying to pursue music. Actually, he was not, let me say. He was like, here goes a waste. I've worked all these years. Now she's going to throw it in the gutter because she needs to go to university, you know. But long and short, I think for me, I mean, I can talk about many other things, but I would love to just tell people that if you agree with God, if you find you need to find yourself in that frequency, because God is always speaking. Yeah. We just need to switch to his frequency. It's like when I keep telling my doctor, if you're listening to classic, does it mean Kiss 100 is not on? It just means you're not on Kiss 100 frequency. You just need to switch to it. And I believe that's what happened for me at that point when I was 18. I switched to a certain frequency. So I want to challenge guys to just be honest and genuine in your prayer and in your requests about asking God why you are here, because therein lies your happiness, your wealth, your satisfaction, your impact to society. Therein lies your wealth.
Wow. That's a great lesson. I mean, you're 18, you're trying to figure out what you were born to do. And I think what you're saying is that you never go very far and get to a place of joy and happiness unless you figure out what you're about, what it is you were created for. I think that's a big lesson. That's a big lesson.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for who you
so deep, Bana.
Yeah, preacher. That's you need to make the altar call.
Maybe as Sophie jumps in to go ahead with Kanji, just want to say thank you for all of you joining us online. Very good conversations there. Please feel free to ask some questions for these two great people here, and also to us as well. Kanji is going to ask us some of the questions as well about our lessons as we continue. We're just going to have a conversation to and fro. But thanks to all of you who are here, and please keep the conversations going. Let us know if you have a question for ourselves, Sophie and I, or for Kanji or Wahoo. Let's just keep talking. We're talking about lessons we have learned in life, and it's just an easy sharing today about those lessons. So number one is about purpose and how that is important, and how to be sincere with God and just get to ask him about your life and talk to him, and he's quick to answer.
All right. Thank you, Wahoo. That was powerful. Kanji, I didn't even know you started your relationship with music at 18.
Oh no, 18 I was a seasoned pro. What are you saying?
Oh, all right.
Long concerts.
Yeah, concerts. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I actually started my first performances. I must have been maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My sisters. We had a group with my sisters, and there's actually footage. I need to find that footage at KBC. It was then VOK, and there was a show called Sing and Shine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
And there was a show called Joy Bringers. Us guys have footage of me as a 5-year-old singing on that. I need to find it, by the way.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you began, so 18, you began your career as a professional singer? Yeah? So the question I have for you is, you've done over, is it 20 years or so, I don't know, of music. If you were to give advice to your younger self, about music, about doing what you've been doing, what is it you would tell a younger Kanji?
Wow, that's a good question. And one I've never thought about. My mind just doesn't work like that. I'm like, what I've done is what I've done. Move on. Not exactly. But I think for me, I guess maybe it's the same advice that I give young people now. And you know, there's just some things that I've built over time that I think are just very important life lessons that have been part of my journey. And I think one is even very linked to what Wahu said earlier. And I think one of my big lessons for guys starting is go small. And the culture we live in has this huge ideology around go big or go home, right? And by this, sometimes you go big and then you go home, you know. You spend all your money putting together these concerts. I don't know what. No one shows up, and like now that's it. You're done. Your career, you know, your career is done. I'm like, go small. Do it. The habit of doing it small and doing it well is the same habit you'll need to do it big. The same excellence you pursue of your craft, you know, in your bedroom, as Wahu was saying, or in the shower. That's the same thing that's gonna keep you when you know, when you're doing the big things. And so don't be scared to do small, and don't be scared to think small. You know, like, you know, because I met a girl a few years ago, and she was telling me her dream, and it was so nice listening to her dream. But her dream was she wanted to do similar to Earth Dance. Earth Dance is like one of the biggest festivals. Is it called Earth Dance? Whatever it's called. One of the biggest festivals in the world. It's an electronic music festival. And she's like, she wants to do it at Machakos People's Park. It's gonna be a 3-day festival, and you know, 6 stages. You know, the whole big production. And I listened to the vision, and I was like, yeah, that's a great vision. And so I was like, so what have you done? Like currently, what have you done now? Like, what have you done up to now, rather? And she's like, no, this is my first gig. And I was like, you know, I mean, I don't want to pull down your dreaming, and it's great that you have a great dream, but I think the discipline of doing it small and doing it consistently, it helps you in the long run. When you look at Wahu has had a career over 20 years. How many people in this industry have had a career over 20 years? You know, and she still, I mean, like Wahu, I've never told you this, but like, all of you, like how you just reinvent yourself and keep yourself in the conversation over so many years. It's a thing of being consistent, and so I'm like, for me, every big thing in life starts as a small idea, starts as a small thing, and so, you know, whether it's your business, whether it's music, whether it's your career as a businessman, or you want to be a pastor, or whatever it is, be willing to become an intern, because that beginning helps give you the discipline that you need to grow. So I think one of my big values is it's a counterintuitive, countercultural value, and people hate it when I tell them that, because it's like, you know, you're telling me not to dream big. No, dream big, but start small, but do small, but do small. But do small. Yeah. So that's just one. I think one of the big things. Maybe I'll say another one. Another one of my values.
Maybe as you go to the other one, now that I know you well, I know you burned your fingers a few times trying to do big gigs, yeah?
Absolutely.
And putting in a lot of money, and then people walk away and you're left with a lot to pay. And I think for you, it's been a painful lesson. So it's not just something you're saying, go small. You learned out of trying to go big, and then it blows up in the air, and it lands on your laps, you know, and you get burned.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And you know, you know, first of all, let me paraphrase this and say, because someone probably needs to hear this. You know, every epic failure in your life, in time, is just a story, right? So right now you might be going through the biggest failure ever, right? But in the light of time, in that lens of time, it's just a story, like the one I'm gonna tell you right now. So So, I've not done it once, Pastor Simon. I've done it several times. I remember. So my career, I started out as I started as a solo artist, and then went to the US and joined a group. We started a group, Milele, a gospel group, and toured and did a lot of stuff together. And then I came back home to Kenya, and then kind of picked up my solo career at that point, which was always my plan. And so now I've got a bag of experience. I've got a bag of concerts and tours and all of that, but as a group. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not starting here. I'm starting here. And so for my debut album, I was like, let's go all out. Let's do this thing like it's never been done before. And bought billboards.
Yeah.
Carnival stage. You remember that?
Billboards. Oh my God.
And by then, at this time, guys weren't doing billboards at that time. It wasn't
a new thing.
Yeah, and especially if it wasn't a sponsored gig. It was like this is like, Yani, it's your own gig. And so it was a statement gig for me, because it was like, okay, cool. This is my solo career. I'm kicking off. And we hoped we'd have 10,000 people, sea of people at Carnival grounds. And I remember, going through the ticket stubs, and we hit about 20% of our target. We had about 2,000 people, which was great, but it left us in debt. It left us in debt, because as people who do events, you're always dreaming that the people who are coming are going to pay the money that you need to pay your debt. And that rarely works. That rarely works out. And that happened several times with the festivals, with Spread the Love Festival, where we brought international artists, and we're trying to do this big thing. And I remember at one point, we did Spread the Love. This was featuring Kirk Franklin, I think. No, this was Dietrich Haddon. And after the event, we sat at the dining table with my wife, and I remember I had tea, I had bread. This is like at midnight, I don't drink tea, first of all, But I remember I had a cup of tea, and I had like 4 slices of bread. Like it was like a moment. We weren't talking to each other, but we just knew that at this point we have hit financial ruin, that one, for like, we're not gonna recover from this one. And I think that's what kind of taught me then that you want to build a snowball. You want something that grows and grows and grows, and you don't want to force growth. And I think that for me was my lesson. If I was to do Spread the Love festivals again, for me, I'd do them with local artists. I'd get them to the place where we have 5, 6, 7,000 people, and then now say, okay, cool, let's bring an international act. So I think that's been like a big lesson for me. And we've had some epic fails, man. But as I said earlier, now it's a story. There's no scar on me. It's a story I like telling people, when I'm trying to explain a point. Yeah, so Pastor S, that's the story around starting small.
Well, thank you very much. And I know you had another point, but
I'll get to it as we talk. Yeah.
Just to emphasize to everyone what you've said, I think is very powerful. Go small and be consistent. Eventually, it's going to grow big. And then you also said every epic failure in your life with time, it's just a story. That you can look back into and say, I learned that. I mean, I love that. Those are great words. Those of you guys listening online, you need to write that down. Right now you might be going through a very difficult failure, but one day you're going to look back and say, wow, that was something. That was a bump on the road, but I hit it and I got through it, and now I can tell the story.
Yeah, and even just to kind of just jump on that, Pastor S, because I just feel like it's one of those just great values for us as human beings to have. You know, when everything that we're doing right now, we are compiling the story of our lives, right? And I once had Andy Stanley say this in a message, and he said that the courage is doing the thing now that you want to tell the story about then, right? So when you think about like you're gonna be having this conversation with your grandkids, the stories of my life, the courageous thing is the one that you want to tell your grandkids. You know, when Kenya was going through the hardest time and this and that, I stood up. You know, it's the courage is the story you want to tell, and so living with this idea of the story of your life unfolding. I think for me, it's such a big thing. At least it's one of the things that drives me. I'm always talking about my story, and there are things that I will specifically do because I'm like, yeah, I want this to be part of my life story. That when all is said and done, we are writing our epitaphs right now. Like when all is said and done, here are the things that this guy did. Here are the things he stood for. Here are the things he loved. And all of that. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks for that. I was just wondering, you said you had epic fails. So why is it that you're a slow learner? Why did you keep going back to those things?
I'm a sucker for pain, man. I am. I am. I really am, man. It's
No, but is it that you were always hopeful?
Always. Yeah. Always hopeful. You come up with the best plan you can.
Yeah.
And you dream as big as you can, and you execute it. And then you come back, and then you're like, okay, cool. Let's change this and that, and then let's try it again. And I think some of it is, in me, there's a need to do big things for the king and for the kingdom. Like I have this driving need to do big things for the king, and I don't know how much of it is about me and how much of it is about God, but I think it's something that God put in me, and over time I've learned how to tame it and not just do every idea that pops into my head. But for sure it was hope. You hope this is the one, and you go back in.
And then you find yourself learning some lessons again. And I just want to say to everyone, thank you. Good comments there. I just want to say to everyone, would love to hear some of the lessons you've learned in the last 23 episodes. As we said, this is our 24th episode, and we're going to be taking a 3-week break. We're going to be resuming beginning of next month. That is the Christmas month. And for now, as we discussed today, we just want to hear from some of you, some of the things you've learned, some of the ways you've been blessed by our conversations, and we just love it for those of you who are saying a lot. Nicholas Lesit, we see you there, and Joe Gashira, Hilary Limo, all of you guys, thank you for your shout outs and all the good comments that you've made there. Thank you. Maybe before we come to ourselves, and Sophie and I will share something, Kanji, look like you're getting ready to sing a chorus at some point. Can't wait to hear those keys. But Wahoo, you talked about purpose, and your life is very different because of finding purpose. But it's some point, you know, in your music career, you went a certain way, and at another point, you turned a corner. Yeah, you know, since you found purpose in after high school, have you had some challenges, some huge challenges in your life, and any other lesson that you've learned?
Yeah, so I've definitely had lots of challenges. I mean, it's not, I wish it was a smooth line, you know, a nice trajectory, but it's like this, it's all over the place. And I think, you know, I was listening to Sophie when she asked Kanji what he would tell his younger self. I think for me, what I would tell my younger self is be more confident in yourself. You know, I think I second guessed myself a lot. I listened to a lot of external voices, and that made me doubt, because when we were young, no one was doing the thing. I mean, we were few who were trying to do the thing we were trying to do. There's no one I could benchmark really, you know, with where I was trying to go to. So I doubted myself, and at some point you're like, is this God? Is this nilikosea? Because everyone is telling you you're on the wrong path, you know. If I go back to myself, I'd say trust my gut. Listen to myself a lot more than the surrounding voices. I mean, there are things I've tried. There are a lot of songs that I've worked on that just tanked. Actually, my first song that I released, nobody knows it. Like only my close friends, and sometimes even my brothers don't know that song. Yet I poured my heart and everything. That was my first song. My first song that I recorded and took, was it my first? No, it was my second. But it was played for 1 week, and it was played for 1 week by my friend Davi, was a presenter on Capitol after I have begged him, and after 1 week it sort of fell off, and we just couldn't have that conversation. Like, why are you not playing my song anymore? I mean, kama watu hawajaikubali, it's not his fault. So I remember feeling so discouraged and saying maybe I had wrong, maybe this was not because I poured everything, all my emotion and everything into that song. And it took me about 6 months to sort of pick myself up again and try and write again. But when I did, I think what I did is I started at some point asking people, why do you think this song didn't work? And for me, that's what I start now packaging as research. Yeah. So I tell younger artists, do your research. Don't give up. Don't get upset when your song isn't played on the radio. There's a reason. The DJ doesn't hate you. Okay. No one hates you. If the song is not taking, the song is not taking. What you need to be asking is why. Yeah. Why is it not picking? Why is it not picking? And do your research and figure out, because we are not creatives. We are very, our art is our art, and it's so personal. But if you're making it for public consumption, you need to sort of tailor make and sort of hear feedback from people you're making it for. What is it about this song you like or don't like, and get honest feedback from people across the board. This is what I tell young musicians. Play it to DJs, play to radio presenters, but also play to your friends, because they are the consumers. Play to people who are going to give you honest critique. So with that, then I did my next song, which was Liar, which did very well. Yeah. But that's not to say along the journey, I've had songs I've poured. In fact, we were remembering with my hubby, there's a song I did called Better Day. Yeah. I loved, personally, I loved that song with everything. It was from my heart. And I remember the pre-production for that video. Our car, we were shooting in Magadi. We had to go look at the place. Then we got 4 punctures. Like, who gets 4 punctures? It was such a struggle pre-producing it. And, you know, working, we poured, we shipped, I don't know how many people to Magadi, and we shot, and we had violins. It was going to be a fantastic success because it was encouraging people. This was a song, Better Day. You're going to have a better day, you know? Maze, your song ilikuja ikaenda tu hivyo. I'm like, yani the way I sweated. sweating tears, sweating, you know. So I'm like, yeah, but you have to sort of pick yourself up again and try again. You know, you can't get upset for too long. You are allowed to feel bad, but you can't wallow in that space. You have to lift yourself up and continue. But I think maybe what I can say is it's important to keep, for me, what I can say is at some point I think I reconnected with my why. I remembered my 18-year-old self and the conversation that I had. And I started now really conversing with God and telling him, you know, there's music, but there's also other things that are within my life's purpose. And for me, I really, I guess I can say I'm in a space where I'm telling God to guide my steps, you know, guide my steps as I move forward. It's very easy to hear other voices. It's very easy to get distracted and to think that your pastor is the one who knows, or your spouse is the one who knows, or your whatever. These are all different voices that may not be the key voice. The key voice should be God. You know, why am I here? And just to keep trying to recollect yourself to that. And maybe again, I can say to people, when it comes to listening to guiding voices, it's like I said, our society, watu wanakuanga na opinions mingi. Hey, opinions. Unafaa kufanya, ungefanya, mbona umefanya? You can go nuts, you know? And I tell people the most important voices you need to listen to. Number one, you listen to God. Fine-tune that frequency. Number two, listen to your older self. So for me, my older self that I listen to is 90 years old. My 90-year-old self has lived a life. She's extremely wise. She can look back and she knows what's important and what's not. What should I worry about? What should I not worry about? What should I focus on? And I ask myself, what would 90-year-old Wahoo do? Forget these pieces. What would 90-year-old Wahoo do? She would say, kata hii story, hii haina maana, wachana na hii, fanya hii, endelea uko tu sawa. The same way I wish I could advise my 22-year-old self. Yeah. But the other voice that I listen to is 12-year-old Wahoo, who was hopeful, who had magical dreams. I mean, 12-year-old Wahoo wanted to own, I don't know what, she had 3 homes, one at the beach, one in a forest, and one in the city, all hers. And, you know, she had fantastic dreams about where she wanted to be. And sometimes the problem is life dulls that young voice because you say, unapata reality. But no, there's a pureness about your young dreams. So for me, I say, listen to God, then listen to your younger self, and listen to your older self, and then make your decision based on that vertical and horizontal.
Excellent. I like that. And also the voices of maybe some of your dear friends, those who mean well and want you to succeed. And sometimes they see things that you cannot see. That's excellent. I mean, that's a lot of wisdom right there. Being confident in yourself. I think that's what you talked about. Listening to guiding voices, starting with the voice of God. That is always like the North Star. You're still talking about asking why. When you fail, ask why. You know, don't make it personal. Ask why. Why is it happening? Failure should never be personal. It should be a learning experience. You ask questions, you get to know why you went through that, and then you get to do something about it. I think, Kanji, before we come to you, and then Sophie will share with us maybe a lesson that she has learned, but would love to hear some keys that would inspire us to dream.
Yes, Kanji.
But maybe, Kanji, as you do that, I would say this pretty quick. I think one of the lessons I've learned in my journey of life is that once I know what God wants my life to become, to take bold moves. I think I've just come to learn is that I could be able to make some, decisions and take leaps and actually believe that God is going to take care of me, that God is going to bless the steps that I take. For example, there are a few steps I've taken, I think, in my life that I don't regret. Like the first one was a step that I took, to quit my legal profession to follow God in the ministry. And of course, to many people that sounded crazy, but I knew that God was inviting me to another adventure. And it doesn't mean I didn't fail in some ways. I didn't struggle with this good wife about some money and stuff like that. But I am so glad I took that bold step. And then a few other steps I've taken, like into joining Mavuno and starting out with you, Kanji and Pastor M and a few other people. And then when I felt it was time to move on, being able to step out of something that was doing well and be able to step out into something else that you're not sure how it's going to pan out. So I've taken some bold moves in my life, and I don't think it's because I'm courageous as a person, but it's because I felt I was living out my purpose, and there's a God who was inviting me to an adventure. And so I always look at the next step as an invitation to an adventure from God. And then I'll take the step, take the leap, and believe that God is going to take care of me. Wahoo seems to be a little hanging there, but maybe the keys are going to bring her back. Angie, go ahead.
That's deep. That's deep. I don't know how this is gonna work, Pastor. You always ask me to do difficult things. Huh? Let's see here. Can you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this song is it's I think it's a looking back song.
Okay, Kanji, you need to speak up.
The volume is a bit low.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Can you hear the piano?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I was saying this is a looking back song where you one of the things that is so powerful is just kind of realizing that God, because of who he is and what he's done in the past, he proves what he's going to do today and what he's going to do in the future. And God's track record is something that we look at, to really tell us that he is God. And the whole idea that sometimes we need to take a moment and stop and be like, like God, you what you have done, you've been faithful. You've been faithful to me. So this is a small song that I've been singing this week that I think just really has blessed me. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercies never fail me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so nice. That's so good. Thank you for those keys. So let me let Sophie also share a lesson that she has learned, and Kanji, feel free to ask any question to the two of us before we come back to you, and you continue with your spitting out some wisdom.
All right, thank you. I was just thinking about, the question I asked Kanji, about why did you keep going? And I was going to ask another question, like, when does hope smell the coffee and kind of wake up? Does it ever? But I sort of got an answer to that question, because, like you said, it's driven by a desire to do something big for God. And then there's also the story that is going to become your life story. And I think until the lessons are done, then you're not done. You're just not done. Yeah. So I think that was great. What have I learned? Oh man, I've learned lots and lots of things. I think that one of the things that I have learned, of course, when we got married, I think by the time we got married, Simon was out of work, formal employment, and doing itinerant preaching. Yeah.
AKA Aqua Nakazi.
What is that?
No, Kanji, don't hate. Huh?
You was unemployed.
Yeah, and so
I was doing gigs here and there. That's what it means.
Yeah, so Betema was I think for about a year or so I was the one working, was surviving on my TSC salary, and that salary is another miraculous thing for another day. But I remember going to teach somewhere in the Bundus and having a lot of zeal for my work, saying, I'm serving Jesus, TSC is not only my employer, and just giving my all to whatever I was doing. Then after 1 year, the grace evaporated. And I was like, are these demons? Is this spiritual warfare or what? So I went into prayer and fasting. And, at that point, I just felt the Lord saying, it's over, man. It's been real. It's over. You go and join the husband. And it was very hard for me. It was a very bitter pill for me to swallow, because I was like, God, you're not being serious. Because can you see between the two of us what we are needing to live on? We are newly married. How are we going to raise support? Because that's how people lived then. But what I realized is that when it was over, it was over. I couldn't do that gig again. And I realized the grace was over for the season. So I could remain in the desert and not, enjoy God's provision. And so I also stepped out in faith, very fearful, extremely fearful, but I stepped out. And so there was obedience, very fearful obedience, as I have said. But with time, I had a lot of peace. And what I realized is that from that season on, the Lord literally began to supply our needs. I remember I would be at that point where I need a shoe. Then someone calls me and said, hey, Sophie, Ebu, come and see me. And when I go and see them, like, let's go to the shop. I need to buy you a shoe. I'm like, who told you? I was like, yeah, leakage. The Lord is taking care of me.
Wow.
I would be at a point where I need to change my wardrobe, and somebody would literally call me and hook me up. So there are so many stories like those, even right down to we needed to have at the point where we needed to, we got pregnant. We were still itinerant preachers by then. And we were wondering, so this child is coming. How are we going to fund this activity? And I tell people pregnancy and childbirth is not an emergency. You have 9 months to prepare for that time. And but the reality was we were here living by faith, not having much. And I began to pray, and we began to tell God, you led us to this place. So for the sake of your own reputation, you had the best come through for us.
Mm.
And I remember when I was, when we were about 4 months pregnant, my pregnancy was not even showing, by the way, but people began to shop for our baby. One woman called us and, told us that God has told her to give us money for maternity hospital, to pay for the hospital.
Wow.
So she gave us a lot of money. We had not seen such money in a long time. And she said, this one is for hospital, don't touch it. And so for sure we were provided for. So I had my list of what we needed for the baby. And I tell you, so somebody came and gave us this and this and that. And then on the last month, someone came and said, Sophia, I want to see your list for your shopping. And I gave her, and she said, let's go to Sunus. I think people know what Sunus is. I don't know where people go these days. She just said, give these people your list. So literally everything was provided for. And that child was provided for. So did you hear that maternity was paid? Time came for our child to go back to school, and we couldn't even raise school fees for her. And so where we lived, there was a house, a school next door, and our child took herself to school. She really, really loved school. And so one day the teacher says, Mama, so you just pass school fees for this child? I told her, but I don't have school fees. And then the previous week, someone had told me, I went to a Bible study with some ladies and I was telling them, prayer item, we need school fees for our kiddo. So she offered us an amount and she said, go look for a school. I'm going to pay your school fees.
Oh, wow.
But so it was a string of, I'm really trying to summarize this story. But our child went to school. Not only her, but our second baby went to school on that school fees that was provided. It was just miraculous. What have I learned? That it pays to walk in obedience. And I know that I tell this story to people and they say, they almost think it's unbelievable because of where we are. But I say, it pays to walk in obedience.
Amen.
The fear, the feeling of, oh my goodness, I've never been so foolish in my life. Like I say, it has added up to where we are. And so one of my greatest lessons is that there is nothing in our life that is a mistake. Even that thing that we do that appears dumb, it's all in the plan. And that's really what I say, that those days when we had to trust God, for food, we used to speak to our kitchen cabinets and say, be ye filled with food. Yeah, and then we'd go out and someone would hook us up with some massive shopping, I tell you. So I think our story is that, later on, I think what Simon, maybe he may share, was that we even ventured into politics in 2002. We had nothing. Yani we had 0 Kenya shillings. Yeah. But because of what we had seen God do previously, we were not even scared at that point. We were like, God has always come through. So let us see what he will do. And really that has been the story of my life. So I think the biggest story of my life has been the place of faith. And as a new believer, I used to really pray and tell God, oh, give me the gift of faith. And I thought that it would just be, you're touched like this and faith checks in, gift of faith. But I think gift of faith has been built over the journey, over the days when you really you're at the end of yourself, at the end of your resources, you're trusting God and he comes through. And sometimes I tell you, I don't know, you never get used to it, but I think faith has been, obedient faith has been one of the biggest lessons of my life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, of course, I've been part of that faith. And I think my sister taught me something once that I've now forgotten, that when you take a step of faith, there's always someone else waiting on the other side of your obedience. And I think for me, those earlier days, even though we did not interact with a lot of money, the stories of change and transformation, and people told us, wow, we're so glad you're doing this. That was more satisfying than driving, a German car. Just to hear those stories and know God is using the little that we give him to touch the lives of many people. So just everyone knowing when God invites you to something, just know there are other people waiting for you to do that, because your purpose is never just about yourself. It's about other people that need to benefit out of it. Well, maybe before we come to you, we do one more round, Kanji, and then Wahoo, and then we begin to wrap up. This time just flies. In fact, we're almost out of time. It's just to say, I think one of the lessons I've really learned is the power of prayer, as Wahoo said, just to be able to talk to God. I could write a book about, well, I've written a book on prayer, but I could write a book about just the stories of how God answers prayer. But just to say, there's a little booklet I've written that is on offer today, only for 350 shillings, about praying effectively for your family. Praying effectively for your family. And this is really about my story and how we prayed for our families and how we saw God do a lot of things and fix some of the issues that were big in our families. And so that book, Gideon's Action, Praying Effectively for Our Families, is available. I think Moses and a few other people are talking about it online. And so feel free to order yourself a copy and we can send it to you wherever you are. There's one other book about Daddy's Destiny, the difference a father makes. Again, right out of my life and the loss of my dad and what I went through in terms of father hunger and how God has become a daddy to me over the years, and how that lesson has just touched a lot of people around the world as I've given that story. So just to say, I think the big lesson there is that God works through your life, not just for you, but for many others. He makes a story out of your personal experiences so that many others may benefit out of it. And today I give that story. I gave it this morning in Eldoret, and there were just lots of people who are crying or were dealing with this issue of fatherhood. But if I had never gone through that, I would never have a story and I would never have to touch the lives of other people. So just being able to take our experience as a redemptive gift that God gives us to share with other people. Angie, maybe as we come towards a close, I know you've had many transitions and you have learned a lot of things around that. Is there another lesson that you want to just share with us about your life and what we could benefit?
I mean, it's amazing how life kind of works, and I guess the older you get, the wiser you get. Pastor S, if we had this conversation when we met, maybe I wouldn't have had anything to say. I'd have probably said something, but it wouldn't have been very valuable. But I just feel like, just with time, and so what I've been doing, and this is maybe some advice for some 40-year-olds out there, and I was advised by my mentor to do this, is, just keep a list of lessons that you learn, right? And so what I've done is I've been building a list of values, things that I'm like, it's such a big lesson, it has to become a value for me, and so I said one was go small. A second one is I call it fail forward. So life is gonna hand you failure at a faster clip than you know how to deal with. And if you're honest with yourself, right, from wayward children, bad business decision, something that maybe you kosana with your investment, whatever group, whatever it is, right? Life is gonna hand you failure. But failure for me is a beautiful thing. Failure is actually a good thing. Failure gives you, it's like the most emphatic evidence that the plan you have has a problem. You know, so you know, it's like it's the world's way of telling you there's a problem. It's like pain in your body, right? When you have an injury or you're sick, it's signal, you know. So failure is a signal. It allows you to correct strategy. It allows you to move on to the next thing. There are some things that just need to die, and and you need to move on to the next thing. So I'd say, so hey,
guys, just
Shimoni Moni.
Whoa, what's up, guys?
What's up?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Good to see you, man. I think he wants to come to the show. So once we resume in December, we're going to invite him.
That is so awesome. Yeah. So I was saying, so fail forward. Like failure shouldn't stop you. Failure should move you forward, right? And so that for me is just one of my values. Another big value for me is there are numbers that are all around our life. And I've just become a passionate fan of numbers as evidence of stuff, whether it's for your business, whether it's for social media, whether it's whatever your thing is, right? Like, understand the numbers around your thing, you know, and they're numbers for everything. You know, it might not just be a superficial or how many people are in my church, you know, it might be the number of people who've gotten saved. It might, whatever it is, right? There is an important number in the thing that you do, and understand what those numbers are, be passionate about them, and look at them, and don't be afraid to look at them, because, you know, I think a lot of times we're scared to kind of look at those. And then my fourth life value, because I just felt like I just need to say all of them. And my final one is it's about, like, whatever you set your heart on. My dad used to quote this. John F. Kennedy's dad, you know, used to tell the kids, and it's a famous quote. I hope it's JFK. JFK's dad, and he used to say, someone might fact check me, but he used to say, you know, if you're going to be a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger in the world, right? Like, embrace being the best, like, try for it, look for it, put in the time, you know, and it, for me, I feel like that journey, you know, whether you're the best or not is irrelevant, by the way. It's putting in the effort, like you want to be the best at whatever it is you're doing. Like, that is just magic. Because what it does for you is that it just builds this confidence, that I'm gonna put in the time that's needed to become a master of whatever, of preaching, of business, of music, of painting, of, you know, and I just feel like that for me is just a huge value, and we don't have enough of it, because people want to be the best, because of we're in the age of social media, and everyone is somehow the best at everything. You know, I see a new mom, you know, giving advice on raising children. I'm like, I don't want to listen to your advice on raising children, because you don't know, you're still finding out, right? You know, so, but for me, I'm like, the people who put in the time and the effort, like, there's this thing called the power of time. Like, you know, put in 5 years, put in 10, put in 20, And all of a sudden you wake up and you're wahoo. You're like, everything I touch is golden. Like I'm just good at I'm really good at what I do. And so don't be scared to put in the time, because that time is powerful.
Yeah.
Can I just add on to what Kanji has said?
Please do, as you also share, your final lesson, something you've learned. But that's a powerful point, that there's nothing like microwaving when it comes to life. You need to put in time and just give it time to mature as you pursue excellence. Go ahead, Wahu.
I was going to say, I was watching, I think it was a documentary by Bob Marley. Now, some of earlier concerts, Bob Marley, who lives even beyond his life, some of his earlier concerts tanked. They did not do well, but he performed on that stage. I remember one particular one where it was a stadium, and someone who happened to be there was saying Bob Marley performed as if the stadium was full. Like he gave it all his energy. He performed like performing to a full stadium. And I guess that's what you're saying. Like if be a ditch digger, be the best. Just do your best, because it's gonna pay out.
Yeah, so it will.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add to that.
By the way, I tell my kids, like by the way, they'll tell you even now, like if you ask them what's the one thing your dad talks about, for me I talk about passion.
Right.
I'm like just like, and I just find like we're in an age of very little passion. And I keep on telling them, just like and my prayer, like it's on my prayer list for them, like find the thing that I don't care what it is, just live a life full of passion, like want to do great things, want to do something meaningful,
Awesome.
I hear you. I keep telling the young people the same, just passion, and part of passion makes you dream big. Yes, go small, but dream big, dream big that you can still do a lot of things, I still have a passion to see myself affect and bring a measure of transformation to 40 nations. And I know it sounds crazy, but what is life without big dreams? Have some big dreams, keep doing what is little, writing books, doing Man Enough, doing all of these things. Eventually you find it's gone. I mean, during this time of COVID alone, our programs online have extended to like 7 new countries. Gone to places we would have flown into, but now we just needed to go online and we get people. And I just say, when you keep doing the little that you're doing, eventually you earn the right for people to listen as well. I mean, there's a time I gathered men together to talk to them and they didn't come back the next week because I think I was too young. I didn't have much to tell them. But many years later, when I started it again, they wanted to hear me. They wanted to listen. So I think there's something about the law of process Maxwell talks about. The life is a process. You can't fast track it. It's a process. Maybe Sophie will give us a last lesson and then we'll all give our final word and then we will close for this 24th episode. Kanji, do you have another song you wanted to sing?
All right. So I think I had written a whole page full of lessons that I wanted
time
to
just
share.
flies, yeah.
I think it has to do with my being a teacher. But I just feel I have learned many things in my close to 50 years. But I think the thing that is very key for me right now is that you've got to be a light traveler on life's journey. So don't carry people, forgive, the power of forgiveness. And really, the power of forgiveness is a ticket to personal freedom and just inner peace. It is, and forgiveness and bitterness is such a huge, huge burden to carry along life. And I think one of the things that I decided early on in life is that there is nothing that is unforgivable. And I really, really do mean it. There is nothing that is unforgivable, none at all. First of all, because what didn't Christ die for? What is there something that, you know, the blood of Jesus is not potent enough to wash or to deal with, you know? So I think that's one thing that I have made. And I think in the line of business that I do, dealing with people and then dealing with their children, I tell you, that is a very, very intense space. And so I have learned in relationships generally, forgive and forgive easily, that even in the place of conflict, the starting point is forgiveness. So I've forgiven you, and then now let's talk about how this needs to get better. And really, I have found that thing has, I can be in the middle of a big conflict, but I won't lose sleep over it. I will sleep, and then tomorrow, wake up, pick up life from whatever it is. If you need to say sorry, someone said humble pie is non-fattening. It won't make you fat. It won't settle anywhere. You know, just eat as much of it as you need to you know, to live a peaceful life. And in that sense, as an employer also, investing in people, knowing that the very nature of human nature is, the very essence of human nature is brokenness. And so I tell people, or rather the lesson that I have learned is that I shouldn't be surprised when people act in broken ways. And my favorite scripture in that is Jeremiah 17 verse 9 that says, the heart of man is exceedingly wicked. So really, if we go by that scripture, what should really shock us is when people do good. That is what should shock us. We shouldn't get shocked when people act in broken ways, slander us, gossip, you know, stuff like that. And so you pick up and you say, okay, how can we make this better? How can we, you know, change this so that it doesn't happen? And so in that sense, when people come, because I'm an employer, I hold on to them lightly. I know that they're not glued to me, that the time will come when they have to leave. While they are with me, I'm going to, you know, invest in them unreservedly, so that in their time with me, they're going to hopefully be their best, because I facilitated that thing of them being their best. And when it comes time for them to leave, I will release them graciously, bless them, open doors if there are doors to be opened in their next season, because I mean, life is short, and there's a lot that needs to be done. So the lighter you are along that journey, the better. Yeah.
Thank you. Forgiveness is great. I think it's been a lesson as well, and I think all of us learn it slowly. And I think it's a good thing to detox often, because when you carry this burden, it doesn't help you. So thanks for sharing that. I know forgiveness is not easy, so there are many questions around it, and maybe it's one of the subjects we'll talk about when we resume in December. And so for all of you that have been following with us, it's really, you know, a good thing to have these conversations, and we're putting together a lot more topics that we're going to be talking. In case you have any suggestion of some things that we need to talk about when we come back for season 2, please let us know, and we're going to talk about. And we have noted forgiveness as one of the things that we'll be talking about. I know we're way past time, but Wahoo and Kanji, each one of you can just tell us your last words. We're so glad that you're here before we conclude. Wahoo.
Okay, I just want to say, obviously, thank you, Percy. I always learn a lot, even when I participate. I've just been taking my own notes here. It's been such a rich conversation, and I think I hope other people have benefited as much as I have as well. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you to everybody that has tuned in. May God bless you all. Remember, focus on the bigger picture. Let's listen to the voice. You know, God should be your true north. You know, of course, you can bounce ideas off of people. It's, you know, obviously if you're married, your spouse's input and thoughts are important. You have friends, maybe sisters, other people who really care about you. You know, don't ignore those voices, but ultimately the decision, God will reveal the right thing for you to do if you're just keen to fine-tune the frequency, the vertical frequency. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mbugua.
Yeah. By the way, I just echo Wahu's sentiments. Wahu, we need to be talking more, man.
Yes.
we need to. But yeah, I mean, it's first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out with your peeps and be a part of what you guys are doing. I think it's great. You know, this is such a great conversation. By the way, we didn't even touch. We all have such a great thematic. By the way, working with spouses,
Yes.
like all of us. And that was one of my questions that I had. That I was like, man, I'd love to hear everyone's take on that, because it'd be great to take some notes. But yeah, but thank you. I think for me, maybe it's more of an encouragement to someone who's watching, and I think there's a thing that we used to talk about, which is hope wounds with my friends. And you know, you started out your journey, and you know, you had these big dreams and big hopes, and then life just bites and life happens, and I really feel like the devil just uses that to steal what God put in your heart, you know, and yeah, I think for me, my word for you is just keep, like, dream again, allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to God, like, God is so amazing. Like, he puts these things in our hearts, these desires to do things for his kingdom, these desires to help people, to accomplish these things. It's never for us, right? It's always for the king. It's always for the kingdom. It's always for people. And yeah, my prayer is that you who's listening right now, that you will find the courage to do that thing, to do that thing that you want to tell the story about later on. Yeah, and that God would bless you with great friends who encourage you, as these guys here on this call have been for me. You know, just inspirational friends who help you and inspire you by their action, maybe not even by the time you spend with them, but just by their action. So yeah, God bless.
Well, thank you very much. Before I ask Sophie just to say a prayer for us, let me say again to our listeners, it's been the thousands every week. We have really enjoyed hanging out with you. We appreciate, I mean, there's so many lessons Sophie and I would have shared. And you guys, I mean, you have gone through life, learned a lot. And a lot of our messages can be a message to a lot of people. And so we're going to get back to this. Hopefully at some point we'll continue these life lessons, but please let us know some of the topics you'd like for us to discuss in our season 2 that begins the first Sunday of December. We're looking forward to getting back together. You know, season 2 is going to be amazing. If you enjoyed this season 1, and we did, I mean, there was so much that we got to learn, and you need to look forward to season 2. We also want to invite you to some of our programs that we are doing. Feel free to come into that. We're doing quite a few programs for our boys and for our girls and parents during this holiday season. And so check us out on our social media, Transform Nations. And if you would like to get any of our books, feel free to do that. And of course, make sure you get Wahu Wahu's music and Kanji Mbugwa's. You know, they have great music, and you want to promote their business as you bless yourself as well. So thank you, all of you guys, and we have really enjoyed the conversation. Again, several questions asked that we couldn't get to, but season 2 is coming. Sophie, if you just bless us and pray for all of us as we continue to fly in this journey, that God will bless us and give us a wind under our wings.
Okay, thank you, viewers. Thank you, Wahu and Kanji. It was really, really nice hanging out. I hope that we can do this again sometime soon. So let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you so much for your goodness and kindness towards us. Thank you because you are a God who is very intentional about the things, the purpose that you have for us, about your dream for the lives of each of your children. And I pray for each and every one of us, oh God, that you would open up our eyes to see what you see, that you'd open up our ears to hear your voice and to believe your story. Give us hearts that are believing. Give us courage to step out in obedience, oh God. Give us courage to dare believe your dream for us. And I pray that for each and every one of us who has been walking this journey with us, these 24 episodes, that we will not just be hearers of the things that we have heard, but that there will be a spark that will be ignited in every one of us to go and do something, to act in response to what we have heard.
Yeah.
I pray for each and every one of us. Some of us have difficult questions that only you can answer. And we pray that you would come through for each and every one of us. And so we thank you for this amazing season that is coming to an end today. We commit the future days into your hands. We want to ask that you take over these conversations and let them be your voice to all who are out there who need to hear what you have to say. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Sophie. It's good to have you here today. And yeah, Kanji, we'll get you next time to sing several other songs. But thanks for singing. Wahu, I know you are shy. You cannot sing, so we're not asking you to sing.
Next time we're doing it together with Wahu.
She says she only sings in big gigs. Huh? That's why she has the courage.
Yeah, she needs a stadium.
All right, guys, you're such wonderful friends. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you.
God bless you guys.
Have a blessed time. Thank you, all of you online. We love you and blessings. Let's keep doing this life. It's worth doing it well. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Night.
Night.